Good morning. It's Weezy FS1. Skip the BS and put everybody after BS. PS, all I spit is FACTS. The best, skip Bayless, yes, say less. Top for the top, apex, everyday flex. If you ain't got no haters, you ain't poppin', I ain't trying to hate. Let's have a Jordan and LeBron debate. I got time today, dripping on the chain. My diamonds say what they gotta say. If you think it's a game, I commentate, I ain't gotta play. On in the morning, I own my opponent. My competition is not an issue, it's cotton tissue. Unconventional, controversial, convoluted, unconditional, undeterred and undisputed. Good morning.
Good morning, Wayne. Good morning, Keyshawn.
Yo.
Good morning, Rachel. Welcome back, Rachel.
Thank
we
you.
missed you, Rachel.
Thank you.
All right. Let us start today with Angel Reese, who defended herself yesterday. Maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't. If you haven't, please check this out. Okay, Rachel, your reaction to what Angel Reese said yesterday.
Well, she's right, and she's right in a couple different ways. Big picture around the league. The teams that sold out their season tickets early, it wasn't just the Indiana Fever. It was the Aces. It was the Wings. It was the Atlanta Dream, right? Caitlin Clark is on none of those rosters. So to say she's the only reason games have sold out, I mean, there's just actual evidence that's not true. But she's also right in the more direct sense, which is that one of the main conversations people have been having about the women's game, it pits Caitlin Clark as this damsel in distress, right? And Angel Reese, as she said earlier in that, she said, oh, I'm the villain. And you heard her say, oh, if I have to be the bad guy. I don't think that's fair to either one of them. That's not how either one of them should be portrayed. But if that is going to be used to market and sell the game, then she wants people to know that she is the foil to Caitlin Clark and that you can't have a rivalry without the other person, too. So she's right in that sense. I mean, this whole rivalry really does have the potential to grow into the kind of Bird Magic situation that lifted the NBA. I'm talking about the effect they had on the league, right? Bird and Magic just ushered in a whole new era for the NBA, got them off tape delay in some cases. And I think,
all cases,
right?
yeah.
And I think that this rivalry has the potential to lift the WNBA. But it is a two-sided thing. And the difference is, with Magic and Bird, no one talked about them being jealous of each other. No one talked about them being petty or catty. People talked about how they were hard-nosed and competitive. And it is frustrating that not to all commentators, but some commentators, not to all fans, but some fans, the women aren't allowed to be that way. Why can't they be competitive and hard-nosed and aggressive and all the adjectives that we give men? Instead, they're hit with all of these negative adjectives. And that stinks. I mean, that is really hard when you look at the NBA, which has rivalries and flagrant fouls and all of, people making comments and shoving each other. I mean, MJ, if you ask him if Bill Laimbeer, the worst thing he did was shove him the way that Caitlin Clark got shoved the other day, They gave Michael such a hard time at the beginning, the same way they're giving, Caitlin Clark a hard time. It's part of the game.
No, it is part of the game. And one of the things that the Fever need to do if they want to be, this comparison of the Celtics, the Lakers, Bird, and Magic, they got to start winning some games.
Yeah.
They got to start winning games. Look, I was saying this yesterday, exactly what Angel Reese was talking about. It's not about one person. It's not. I've been watching WNBA since their first draft pick was Tina Thompson out of USC. Ever since that moment, I've paid attention to the WNBA a little bit more now because it's hype now. It's hype, it's popping, all of those things. Now, the momentum with Caitlin Clark, she's hit it right at the right time. It was already coming. Women's sports in general, not just the WNBA, but women's sports in general. Sure. It's coming, and then all of a sudden, she's parachuted in because of a successful career in college at Iowa. And then from a marketing standpoint, not just the WNBA, but the networks, people that follow, the blogs, all of that kind of forced and pushed the narrative to another level. So when you start to look at her and you say, well, the only reason why those games are sold out is because of her, well, you hit it right on the button. On the head. That's not true because she doesn't play for those teams. Nope. So you can't just say, well, it's sold out because of her. No, because you only get to see her a couple times a year, if she plays in the game against those teams. But when you look at it, Skip, in 2023, before her arrival, the WNBA had the most people watching. It was up 21%. It was the most watched season, up 21%, okay, in 21 years. The attendance was up 16% from 2022. So we could just look at the numbers. The average attendance was 7,000 per fan, the highest since 2018. The total attendance was the highest in 13 years. So it was already coming. She just happens to be the girl who broke the records in college, played in the final, had this
back-to-back finals.
Back-to-back finals. It had this sort of rivalry with Angel Reese from LSU, and then the Connecticut situation, and then you had, was it Breanna Stewart or Taurasi?
Diana Taurasi.
Taurasi, after she beat Connecticut, said what she said, and it just became a thing that kind of fireballed to a degree, and now we all looking at it as if it's her fault. It was really not Caitlin Clark's fault. She just along with the ride. It's so many other women that have played in the WNBA that laid the foundation. They just didn't reap the benefits fully because they just landed just now. That's all. And if she doesn't play better and become what people have made her out to be, then she'll go away and somebody else will come along 4 or 5 years from now and it'll be a star that comes into the WNBA and everybody will be saying, well, they just saying this because of her. That's just the reality. That's what happens.
Okay. You make good points. You make really good points. I'm going to make mine. I go way back with women's basketball to my earliest days in Dallas with the old Women's Basketball League featuring Lady Magic Nancy Lieberman, who's still commentating now for the Oklahoma City Thunder. She's amazing. Fantastic. I was there that night in 1979, that Monday night in Salt Lake City when Magic played Bird and literally put the Final Four on the national map because it was on tape delay, not to be seen until, 11:30 Eastern, which is just absurd. That's how bad it was at that point. And all your points about those two, they had sort of a grudging respect for each other, and then they became friends. It took a while. They had to do some commercial shoots together. But neither was, there's no villain in that relationship. It was just great versus great. And again, you did have white and black, but you had great and great. And to your point, you got to start winning some games here before this takes off, right? Because neither of these teams are winning any games. And I was shocked that Caitlin's team managed to beat Angel's team on Saturday, but it's the dregs right now of the
bad teams.
Yeah, of the bad teams.
That's where top draft picks go.
That is correct. Okay. I don't want to come across as some white guy defending the white player in Caitlin because I have not defended her before, and I'm no Caitlin zealot. I'm not the biggest fan. I think I might have been the only one who criticized her for her second half against South Carolina because they were right there in the game. She had a big first half and made 4 out of 6 threes. They were down 3 at half. Then she went 1 of 7 from 3 in the second half against South Carolina, and I sat right here the next morning saying, that was not good. You know, she hit the wall or they took her out of the game, however you want to look at it. So I have criticized her before. But here's the problem. Yeah, she's been right place, right time, but look at what all these teams, they all sold out, to your point, but look what the Aces did. This is even before she was drafted because they knew she was going to go to the Fever, but they moved their game on July 2nd against the Indiana Fever. They already moved it to T-Mobile, so they went from Mandalay Bay, which is 12,000 to 18,000 just because of her. So you got to give her that credit. That's her drawing power. That's for the back-to-back last 2 champs, right? Okay. And then you mentioned Atlanta, the Dream. They moved their games against Caitlin from, what was it? They playing a 5,000 to the Atlanta Hawks home, which is 19,000. And several teams have done this. The Mystics, back in your old stomping grounds, they moved to where the Wizards play just for Caitlin. So to Caitlin's credit, she's not said one word about this. She never said, I am the way, I am the light, right?
Quite the opposite.
No, she doesn't say anything about anything.
She doesn't need to,
her
though.
ratings are speaking loudly for themselves because her ratings, we saw them she just shattered records in college basketball. And early on, she's played 5 home games now for the Indiana Fever, and they have a bigger home attendance through 5 than they had through 20 games last year when they did have the first overall pick in Aaliyah Boston. So they had Aaliyah, and now they got Caitlin. Well, what's the difference? Well, obviously, she is having all-time impact on this league. But to your point, it's not just her, and the seeds were planted everywhere. So they're all over the place and they've been planted for a long time. It just hadn't quite caught fire. Now it is catching incredible fire. They're all flying charter flights now, and I think in large part you have to give Caitlin Clark credit for that, just her presence. Again, I don't know how to quantify that.
I can tell you how to quantify it. It was already in the making.
I was going to say,
it was already in the making. Skip, it just happens.
I think she put it over the top.
It just happens to. It's almost like you say, well, I'm going to give Peyton Manning all the credit for getting the dome in Indianapolis. They was already negotiating getting the dome. He just happened to be the star quarterback, and then they started winning, and then they got the dome. But they was already looking for a new stadium. So I get it. I understand it.
Well, they've been playing tug-of-war over charter flights for 3 years now.
But it's disproportional, right? It's saying she's the only one. She's not the only one.
Not the only
and
one.
that's where the young ladies got upset at.
Right. Is she the one who has, as you said, goosed this entire process? Is she the biggest draw right now in the W? Yes, of course.
You have
but to say she's the only one, or that the same thing with charter flights, right?
Yeah.
Here's a situation that, as you point out, has gone back and forth for years and is certainly something the Players Association had fought very hard for, is seeing her walk up to a commercial flight during preseason, which got a ton of attention. One of the things that pushed a negotiation that was already almost there to the edge, sure. But that doesn't mean she's the only one responsible.
But that's the way everybody's pushing it, though. It's like she's the only one. That's why these young ladies are not feeling it like that, and they're saying what they're saying. This is why Angel Reese said what she said. You're not going to just make it about Caitlin Clark when I'm playing in the WNBA too, and I know I have some staying power. If you look at it, those teams are smart that had to move to bigger venues because they're planning ahead. You said the Aces game is July 2nd. That's a month away. So they planning ahead. They already say, okay, if she's worth the price of admissions, why should we leave 6,000 people outside trying to get in? Let's just move it.
Okay, but she is moving the needle, right? I mean, you got to give it up.
She is the most popular player right now. She is bringing a bunch of people to the game. She is the best in that category. However, she's not the only in that category. She's not the only one bringing people to the game. She's not the only one making ratings. And I think you can be the most at something without being the only one at something.
Yeah, they just selling it as only, and I think these young ladies are just like, I'm tired of hearing
They are tired of it, and I don't blame them. Okay, now let's look at Angel as a drawing card. She's got 3 million IG followers, and she's got 3 million on TikTok. She has 500,000 on X or Twitter. I like her style. I like her press conferences. I like everything about her because she's interesting to me, and she has edge. She's bringing a new edge to this. And is there some villain going on? I guess there's some of that going on opposite Caitlin, to her point, because you need the foil figure. But look at game versus game. So what is Angel doing so far? Again, just raw rookie, but she's 11, 9, and 2. Not bad. But she's not a shooter. She's shooting 35% from the floor, so she's off to a rocky start. But so is Caitlin from 3 because she's 31%. So they're going through their rookie woes and their struggles, and they're
trying to figure it out.
They're just trying to figure it out. And yet, what does Angel do the best to me? What just astounds me about her? What's her greatest strength? It's offensive rebounding. She's just got that knack about offensive boards. So she's 9 rebounds a game. That'll work. But of her total rebounds, 35 are offensive to 27 defensive. Well, that's staggering to me. But I got news for you. Nobody's going to pay to watch offensive rebounds. It's just not how they won't watch men offensive rebound. They just won't. It's not a drawing card.
But
it's not a drawing trait.
Okay. So when you stand on the court, right, Skip? You're on the court with this. She is different off the court. You just mentioned her social media followings, right?
Yeah.
When have, and you know what the Met Gala is, and certainly you do. When have you ever seen a WNBA?
She looked so good.
When have you ever seen a WNBA player at the Met Gala? So she's just doing it different. They're paying to see the young lady that was at the Met Gala. They want to see, wow, that's what they want to see.
But think about this. In style and personality and quote machine quotes, she leaves Caitlin in the dust because I don't want to hear Caitlin after the game. She has nothing to say.
They're paying to see that from her, and they're paying to see Caitlin from the three.
That is correct.
In terms of the charisma.
And passing, I think.
Right.
Passing,
Right. In terms of the charisma, again, I'm not equating them one-to-one as players, but she has some Ann Edwards in her in terms of the persona and the draw she is.
Yeah.
I think that she is obviously behind where Ann is now in terms of their game, but no one was really, when you say, oh, no one's paying to see offensive rebounds, no one was like, oh my God, I got to see Ann Edwards his rookie year. He wasn't selling out single-handedly arenas. It takes time. But I think she has all the ingredients. She is obviously a natural leader. She obviously has charisma for days. She is someone that people want to see. And I have young girls, and Angel Reese is 100%. That competitiveness, that drive. I want them to like Caitlin Clark. I also want them to really like Angel Reese.
Do they like Caitlin also, I guess?
They like all, I mean, they like, we live in Los Angeles. They like the Sparks players. You know, they think Candace Parker walks on water. So even after she left.
Well, she does.
I was about to say, well, kind of.
Yeah. I'm just saying that they, you know.
All right, so what have we seen so far from Caitlin? Has she backed it up? Well, she's by far first in turnovers, by 26 over the second in turnovers. That's staggeringly bad, but she's been fouled the second most times in the league. That she's just getting attacked in a good way. This is bad. I'm talking about basketball plays where she's getting face guarded, she's getting double teamed, and she's not protecting the basketball because they are just, the game plan is take the basketball away from her. So that's not good. But she's already second in assists in the league. Well, that'll work because she's a gifted passer. She is. So there's some give and take on assists versus turnovers, obviously, but right now the turnovers are way too high. So she's now second in three-point makes in the whole league, but it's because she's taken so many, because she's taken 15 more than Diana Taurasi, who leads the league in makes, but Caitlin's only making 31%, so you can see what's happening. So she's second in makes, but she's first in takes. So, okay, she's shooting a whole lot of threes because that's what they're paying to see, obviously, right? And yet she's only the second player who, through her first 10 games, went over, 150 points and 50 assists and 50 rebounds. Only Sabrina is the only other one who's done that through the first 10 games. So she's doing some really good things and some really not so good things, which is pretty predictable for a rookie with the target on her back that you could argue is the biggest target since, what, LeBron's target? Or
LeBron, Kobe. And by the way, the Fever coach made a point the other night that Aaliyah Boston, their #1 overall pick from last year, was having all of the same problems. She said they went to the league office about Aaliyah Boston because they felt she was being unfairly targeted. There's nothing to do with the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. It has to do with the fact that in professional sports leagues, and certainly in our basketball leagues in this country, people are aggressive with young players. We talk about welcome to the NBA moments, right? It's such a part of our lexicon when talking about the NBA game. Why can't the women just have welcome to the NBA moments?
No, they can't.
Without turning this into an episode of the Kardashians.
I don't watch that show, but okay. They can have their moments. The problem that we have in this situation is we're talking about one player. We're not looking at whoever's on the Aces or whoever's on Atlanta or who's ever on Chicago or the sport. We're not really looking at the other. We're looking at Caitlin Clark. That's really what it is. That's really what this boils down to. If that same Kennedy foul happened with somebody in Seattle and we wouldn't even have that conversation.
No, the Connecticut Sun's Alyssa Thomas clotheslined Angel Reese under the basket the other day.
I saw it.
Knocked her to the floor. It was a flagrant 2. Didn't get anywhere near this.
Yeah, because we're talking about Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
That's
And
what
by the way,
it
that
boils
was
down to.
in the confines of actually playing basketball. This was a dead ball foul. It hadn't been inbounded yet, right? Okay.
And it's the
Still was pretty violent.
It was.
it's the young lady that has been propped up before our eyes as the savior, so to speak, at the WNBA, as the WNBA is crashing down and falling, and they shoehorn her in to save it, and now all of a sudden, this narrative takes place, and we're watching it with the person you're not supposed to be knocking on the floor. You know, but beside any of that, where's her teammates at, though? How come her teammates didn't come to her defense? Where are they at in all of this when these sort of things are happening? It's like they don't even pay attention to it. That would never happen in the NBA.
Okay, maybe they have the same mixed emotions that the opponents have about Caitlin's popularity and the credit she's getting for putting the league back on the map.
I don't buy that. I think her teammates, she's been really embraced by her teammates. Look, it's all hard and complicated, and you have a young team.
They're not calling out enough picks for her because she keeps, every game she'll run into a pick, and just this last game she got cold-cocked by a pick.
Yeah, she wound up, it hurt her face.
Yeah, it hurt her. She had to go to the locker room for a while.
Can I leave you with one thing to watch?
Yeah.
She already has 3 technical fouls in 11 games.
Which Caitlin does, okay.
Okay. The WNBA has different rules. We know in the NBA, Draymond Green, for instance, ran afoul of the idea that you pile up enough technicals, you start getting suspension every other game. In the W, you only can get 7 technicals before you start to get a suspension. And by the way, it's not every other game. It's every game that you get the next tech, you get a suspension. So she's only a quarter of the way through the season, and she has 3 of the 7 technicals she's allowed. So that's another thing to watch as we watch this season unfold.
All right, and those texts coming from getting at the referees?
Yeah.
Last quick point. Christine Brennan had a great piece today in USA Today with Tamika Catchings, who's a Fever legend. And to you, Christine's a legend,
Christine's
right?
Christine's my legend.
I know, right. The point she's making that Tamika Catchings is making about the Angel, just to be completely objective here, Tamika did not like it that Angel, after the off-the-ball foul, that she stood up and applauded, and then when Kennedy Clark came to the bench, she embraced her. And this is Tamika's quote to Christine this morning. Angel hopefully has the right people around her that are like, hey, you know what? Not cool right there. It was not a good look for her to applaud what clearly was not a basketball play.
Yeah.
And it was a message sent, but it was pretty ugly to me. And you thought so yesterday. You thought it was out of bounds.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not even anything to even talk about. Anybody can see that with their eyes, that's not, you don't do that. Even if it was the NBA, I would say the same thing. Or football, I would say the same thing. You just don't do such a thing with somebody standing there, not braced, and you slide up underneath them. And now we're talking about a smaller female. You're a bigger, thicker, stronger female than Caitlin Clark.
Or just person.
Huh?
You're a bigger, stronger person. You can just say person.
Person. And so when I look at that, I'm like, anything could go wrong. You know, she could fall on her shoulder, just anything. It's not cool. And I think Kennedy knows that. You know, she knows that. She sits back and she's seen everything over the last 24 hours, and she knows that she probably made a mistake, and she'll do it different this time.
And Rachel, to your point about Michael Jordan against the bad boy Pistons, they put him on the ground, but it was always during the flow of the basketball game, but they just annihilated him.
I saw some cheap shots.
Did you see dead ball fouls? I didn't see any like that.
That was beyond a cheap shot, though. Look,
and the girl got a flagrant for it. I mean, yes, this happens. There are cheap shots in the NBA.
I've never seen that. I've never seen that before, where somebody just standing there and somebody just run up on them and push them down.
And the shock to me was they didn't even review it. So it feels like the refs are sort of complicit in this. Just she needs to be indoctrinated. You know, she needs to,
The WNBA has always been a very physical game.
It is.
And the level of competition per capita, however you want to say it, is higher because there's so many fewer spots in the WNBA. There's fewer teams, there's fewer spots to go around, so there are more talented players filling them because it goes like this. So it funnels down into a more competitive league in some ways, and one of those ways is more physically.
I just hope all those players in the WNBA understand that we just led the show talking about the WNBA, and it's because of all this. So this controversy will sell ultimately.
That's Angel
right?
Reese's point, right?
That's right.
She said you need both sides.
You do. All right. Up next, Keyshawn and I remember Larry Allen. Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.